Everyone, it's Lindsay and I am back with another process video using the December Faith Art Box from Creative Retreat Kits. I will be using everything that's included, including the devotional as my inspiration for today's entry. And today's entry will be in Psalm 100. This is one of the passages that's suggested in the devotional. And to begin with, I'm going to go ahead and trace this moon and clouds and stars into my Bible. So I very easily could have sketched this out, but I was lazy and wanted not to fuss with it, so I'm just going to trace it in since the Bibles are see-through. Now I'm going back over my pencil lines with an eraser very gently just to lighten those pencil lines. I only want these as a guide when I paint. I don't actually want to be able to see the pencil lines on my image, so I'm making sure those are very, very light. And to paint this in, I am going to be using some Distress Oxide inks like watercolor. Now these do bleed through your Bible pages if they're not prepped when these are wet, but I don't mind bleed through, and these colors really match the kit, and I love the effect that they have when you use them as watercolor, so I thought I'd play today, but you could do the same technique using regular watercolors. So what I've done is I've smushed them out onto some plastic packaging, and I'm just taking a wet paintbrush to pick up the color, and you can see these are very, very intense in color, and when you add water to them, they have these really unique properties where they kind of oxidize, so they become this kind of milky, chalky consistency. I don't know, they're just very fun to play with. So I'm using some fossilized amber and some seedless preserves. Later on I'll bring in some cracked pistachio, and I'm just using those to paint in these images. Psalm 100 says, "Make a joyful noise to the Lord, all the earth. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come into his presence with singing. Know that the Lord, he is God. It is he who made us, and we are his. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture. Enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him. Bless his name. For the Lord is good. His steadfast love endures forever, and his faithfulness to all generations." And this portion of the devotional is just reflecting on how amazing it is. The same God who created the universe loves us, and not just loves people in general, but loves each and every one of us individually. And so I just copied some of the devotional content down into the margin of this entry, and it was just such a nice time of focusing on that and rejoicing and thanking God for that. And so it doesn't always have to be entries. I just copied the words right out of the devotional into the margin, so when I come back to this page, I'll be able to remember those little tidbits from the devotional that stood out to me. Here I'm taking a thin paintbrush to paint on some lines for the stars, and I'm pulling out the stamp set from last month that has this little trio of stars, and I'm going to do some stamp surgery. Don't worry, the stamp is fine, it didn't cry, but I thought I'd get more use out of these stars if they were individual stars, and I wanted to just stamp them really easily. I could have masked them off, but that's kind of fussy, so I'm just going to cut them apart. I'm very, very carefully with very thin, sharp scissors cutting in between each one of the stars. Now, if I wanted to use these as a trio again, I very easily could mount them all onto my block together in a cluster, but I really think I'll get more use out of them separated like this. So they are totally fine, function completely normal, and I'm just going to go in and stamp in these stars like they are on that devotional card using two different sizes. There's a larger size and a smaller size, and I'm stamping in that same cracked pistachio. And now we're going to put on some stickers. So there's this word steadfast in the stamp set, and I want to add it to this little banner. So when I put this stamp on my block, I'm actually going to kind of curve the stamp on my block. Because this is a clear stamp and it's a thin word, I can kind of shape it on my block, and I can get it to where it'll fit into that banner shape. So this is a great way to change up your stamps and change around the shape of them and kind of explore those possibilities. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp this in seedless preserves so it'll match the purples I've already used, and I will just stamp it directly onto that little cardstock sticker there. These Distress Oxides stamp much better than regular distressing, so you get a much better impression, and I love the intensity of the color. Now, they do have a tendency to bleed through your Bible pages if you stamp them like this. So even without water, if you stamp them, they bleed. The only way I've gotten them not to bleed is to dry blend them with a blending tool onto the background. They don't bleed through, but if you add any water at all, they're going to bleed through the page. So now I'm just finishing out the phrase, so it says, your steadfast love never fails, adding in some of those hearts. My hearts, I've added some tonic Nouveau or Nouveau tonic. They're like a glossy accent, so it kind of makes them look like enamel shapes. And then I'll just go around and outline all of the stickers. And then off camera, I added my journaling and also added some ink splatters using the Distress Inks and a really wet paintbrush. And that is it for the entry today. So be sure to head on over to Creative Retreat Kits to get subscribed to the kits if you're not already. You're going to want next month's. It is super cute. Head on over to the blog to check out all the other ladies' work. And be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you were inspired, and subscribe to this channel if you're not already subscribed. And until next time, thank you so much. Bye-bye.